so in this lesson we're going to talk about writing inequalities. And so your goal is I can translate and graph inequalities from word problems. Now in the last lesson you learned how to graph inequalities, so you're good to go on that. And so this time what's going to happen is I'm going to give you an inequality in word form, and you're going to have to transfer it into a numerical inequality. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Alright, before we move on to any notes though, I need you to pause and I need you to open a new tab, log on to IXL and complete Z3, and that's going to be in 6th grade, and I need you to do it up to 90 points. It is exactly what we did in class yesterday, so it should not take you long at all, but I need you to do that as a review before we move on. Okay. I'm going to keep going with the lesson. Make sure that you have completed Z3 before moving on. Okay, so how do we write inequalities? Well, there's 3 very basic steps, and then there's a check step at the end. So the first thing that you're going to do is highlight or underline any important keywords. I'm going to show you what those keywords are. It's easier to show you than to tell you. For step 2, you're going to write the variable, and remember that the variable is the letter. And you're also going to write the number that's given to you in the problem. And then in the last step is where you're going to determine the inequality symbol. So it's either going to be less than, greater than, less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to. Now the last step is the check step. You can actually check to make sure that you wrote the correct inequality. And I'll show you how to do that. You're going to pick a value and plug it back into the inequality. Alright, so let's jump right into it. During the school year, Hermano has to write more than 6 essays for his English class. So our key word here is more than, and our key words are what's going to tell us or give us a hint as to what sign we're going to use. So, step 2 is to write my letter, which is E because it tells me right here, and my number, which is 6. Step 3 is to determine the sign. Well, if he has to write more than 6 essays, so this is the number Hermano has to write, he has to write greater than 6 essays. Okay? Now, we're going to go ahead and check it. So, what could be a possible number of essays that Hermano has to write in order to be in good standing in his English class? Well, if he has to write more than 6 essays, could he write 9 essays? He could. So, let's plug that back in for E and see if it works. 9 is greater than 6. Is it true that 9 is greater than 6? Yes. So our solution checks out, and let's go ahead and graph it. So we're going to have an open circle because there's no bar under it, and our arrow is pointing to the right. Alright, let's go ahead and try example number 2. Isaac can spend no more than $4 on a new notebook. Let D represent the dollar amount Isaac can spend on a new notebook. So our keyword here is going to be no more than. Okay, that's step 1, finding our keywords. Step 2 is to write our letter, which is D, our variable, and also to write our number, which is $4. And you don't have to write the dollar sign, but I like to. And now we need to figure out what is the sign. Well, he can spend no more than $4. Can he spend exactly $4? Yes, he can. So we have the equal to bar underneath. So now the second question is, does he have to spend less than $4 or greater than $4? You should have said less than $4. And let's check it out with a possible solution. So if he can spend no more than $4 on a new notebook, what's a possible amount of money he can spend? Well, he could spend $2. So let's plug that back in for D and see if it works. Is it true that 2 is less than or equal to 4? It is true because 2 is less than 4. So now we're going to go ahead and graph it. We have a bar underneath our sign, so we know that it's going to be a completely colored in circle, and the arrow is pointing to the left. Okay, kids on the preschool playground must be less than 5 years old. Let Y represent the number of years old a child must be to play. Alright, so let's find our keywords. Less than, right here. So we have Y is our letter, that's step 2, and 5 is our number. Now step 3, we need to determine our inequality sign. So go back to our key words. Kids on the playground must be less than 5 years old. So we know that less than is this sign right here. But before we graph it, let's check with a possible solution. So if you had a child, how old should they be in order to play on the playground? They need to be less than 5 years old. So could they be 4 years old? Let's check. Plug 4 back in for y, put our less than sign, and 5. Is it true that 4 is less than 5? It is, and so that is a possible solution. We have no bar under our sign, and so I'm going to have an open circle over the 5, and our arrow is pointing to the left. All right, let's try another example. Roxanne needs more than 8 tickets to get a stuffed animal at the fair. Let T represent the number of tickets needed. So underline our key words. She needs more than 8 tickets. All right, T is our letter, and I always like to have the T with a little tail so that it doesn't look like a plus sign, and our number is 8. Now, we need to determine what our sign is going to be. So our key word is more than, and so that's going to tell us greater than, okay? So she needs more than 8 tickets. But let's check it out before we graph it. So how many tickets could she possibly have in order to get a stuffed animal? Well, if she needs more than 8 tickets, could she have 11 tickets? Let's check. Plug 11 in for T, use the same sign, and then bring it down. Is it true that 11 is greater than 8? It is, so that is a possible solution. So on your number line, I need you to find 8, and we're going to have an open circle because there's no bar under it. And the arrow is pointing to the right, so it's going to go over there. Let's try another example. A bag must weigh less than 16 pounds to be carried on an airplane. Let P represent the number of pounds the bag must weigh. So first let's find our key words. Our key word is going to be right here, less than. So our letter is P, that's step 2, and our number is 16. Now step 3 is we need to determine our sign. Well, it tells us that your bag must be less than 16 pounds, and so here is our less than sign. But before we graph, let's check to see if we have this right. So if your bag has to be less than 16 pounds, how much could it weigh? Well, one possible amount is 7 pounds. So I'm going to plug the 7 in for the P, here's my inequality sign, and 16. Is it true that 7 is less than 16? It is. So now we know that we're good to graph. So 16 is right here. We're going to have an open circle because there's no bar underneath, and our arrow is pointing all the way to the left. Excellent. All right, here's another example. More than 2 buses are needed to bring all the students to the aquarium. Let B represent the number of buses needed. So first let's find our keywords. Our keyword is going to be more than because that's going to tell us the amount. Now our letter is B and our number is 2. But what is our sign? So more than. So this number right here needs to be more than 2. So that's going to be our greater than sign. But before we graph, let's find a possible solution. So if we need more than 2 buses, what's a possible number of buses that we could have? Could we have 6 buses? Let's check. So plug 6 in for B, rewrite your sign, and the 2. Is it true that 6 is greater than 2? It is. So we're going to circle this, oops, nope, not the 6, sorry. We're going to circle the 2 on the graph, and it's going to be an open circle because there's no bar, and the arrow, the inequality arrow, is pointing to the right. Okay, so for these, I know it says you try, but I'm actually going to do the first 2 with you, and then you can try the other ones. Okay, you need, our directions are write the inequality and graph it. So we're going to write the inequality over here, and then we're going to graph it below. And I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to graph inequalities without having to make a million different numbers on the number line. So you need to score more than 30 points to take the lead. Now, if the word problem does not tell you what variable to use, you can use whatever you want. I always like to use X because it's simple, but you can use whatever letter you want. So our key word is you need to score more than, okay? So I'm going to use P for this one because we're doing points, and our number is 30. So if our keyword is more than, this number right here needs to be more than 30. So it's going to be our greater than sign. Now let me show you how to graph. So create a blank number line and put 0 in the middle. Now on the positive side, you're going to put your number, in this case 30. And then on the other side, on the negative side, I want you to graph the negative version of that number. Now, just use this graph this line in order to graph the the inequality. So go ahead and circle 30. It's going to be an open circle because there's no bar, and it's going to go to the right. Okay? The next one says there are less than 12 hours of daylight each winter. So less than is going to be our keyword. I'm going to use D for daylight, and our number is 12. So what is our symbol? Well, this number right here has to be less than 12. So it's going to be the less than sign. And now we're going to go ahead and put it on a graph. I want you to always use 0 in the middle, the positive version of the number on the right, and the negative version of the number on the left. And now we can go ahead and graph. We're going to have an open circle because there's no bar underneath. And then we're going to go all the way to the left because this inequality is pointing to the left. All right, I want you to try these two, and then we'll check our answers. Okay, so if you're not done, pause the video, and if you are done, we're going to check our answers. For the first one, you should have gotten P is less than or equal to 60. The reason why we have the bar underneath on this one is because it says it seats at most 60 people. So ask yourself, can it seat exactly 60 people? Yes, it can. So it could have the equal to bar underneath. But can then once you have 60 people, is it less than 60 people that can sit on the bus or more than 60 people? Less than. So it's less than or equal to. For the second one, you should have gotten C is less than 10 because you need to spend less than $10 in order to use the coupon. All right, go ahead and try these two using the same method. Okay, if you're not done, pause the video and finish. If you are done, we're going to go over the answers. So for the first one, you should have gotten T is greater than or equal to 93. And the reason why we have greater than or equal to is because you need a score of at least 93 points. So are you okay if you get a 93? Yes, you are. So you have the equal to bar underneath. Now, once you have the 93, do you need more than the 93 or less than the 93? You need more than. So this number right here needs to be greater than. For the second one, it is your variable, so B is greater than 7 because the baby weighed more than 7 pounds at birth. All right, go ahead and try these two. Okay, if you're not done, pause the video, and if you are done, let's check your answers. So for the first one, you should have gotten M is less than 12,000 because you drive less than 12,000 miles per year, and then you'll graph it with an open circle. For the second one, you should have gotten W is less than or equal to 18. The reason why it's less than or equal to is because it says your wait time will be exactly 18 minutes or less. So it can be exactly 18. And for that, remember, you'll need a colored in circle. Okay, now, once you've mastered going from words into graphs, let's go the other way and go from graphs into numbers. So here I'm giving you a graph, and what we need to do is write the inequality from the graph. It's a lot easier than you think. So first, choose your letter. I'm going to use X, and then look at what number the circle is on. Well, it's on 7. Now what you need to determine is it an open circle or a closed circle? Well, it's open, so I'm not going to have a bar. So which way is the arrow going? It's going to the right. And that's how you do it. Let's try the next one. Again, choose your letter. Now what number is it on? It's on -1. Now what is our symbol? Well, it's colored in, so we know it's going to have a bar under it, and the arrow is going to the left, so that's going to go to the left as well. Let's try number 3. Choose your letter. What number is the circle on? -2. Is it open, circled, or closed? It's open, so there's no bar. And which way is the arrow going? Well, it's going to the left. Okay, you try these. Same thing. All right, hit the pause button if you're not done, but if you are done, let's go ahead and check your answers. So for the first one, you should have X is greater than or equal to -7. The circle is colored in, and it's on -7, and the arrow is going to the right. For the second one, you should have X is greater than 8. So the circle is not colored in, so you do not need a bar, and it's pointing to the right. For the last one, you have X is less than or equal to 18. The dot is on the 18, and it's colored in, and it's going to the left. So we have less than or equal to. All right, that is the end of this lesson. I know it was a little bit longer than others, but it's full of information. If you have questions, you can rewind, fast forward, or always ask me in class.